What if everything that we've been told about compromise is wrong? I had an experience in the 2004 election. In my community, I was part of two groups. One was liberal, the other was conservative, and they both considered me one of them. So I got to hear both sides' unfiltered assessment of the other side. I got a whole earful about those people. You know, those people who just don't share our values. Those people who want to run this country into a ditch. Oh, I heard it all. When you stripped away the specifics, both sides were saying pretty much the same thing. They were each accusing the other side of having a self-serving and malevolent purpose. But you see, I knew these people, and I knew them to be kind. They weren't crazy on either side. And I knew that their assumptions about each other were wrong. While this was happening in my community, I began to notice a similar dynamic in business. Now, I'm a consultant, and I work with sales teams and executives. And so I have observed literally thousands of human interactions. And so I began to see that this my side versus your side problem was pervasive. I saw it in the salespeople who were so focused on making their own quota that they looked at their customer as just a number. I saw it when the VP of operations, who thought about efficiency, would meet with the VP of marketing, who was more creative. And they would battle it out, and they would become convinced that the other person was actually the impediment to getting their work done. They saw no value on the other side. Now, see, we've been told that when two sides disagree, we're supposed to compromise. But I've come to see that compromise doesn't work. In fact, compromise is not the solution, it's the problem. Because, see, here's what happens when you approach something with a compromise mindset. It's like you're trading these chips, and you hold on to the chips that are really important to you, and you parcel out a few that don't mean much, and then you try and get the chips you want from the other side. But while you're trading these chips, you're just looking at what's already on the table. You are not seeing what's possible. F. Scott Fitzgerald once said, "The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function." You ever notice how once you get a lens on something, you just start to see it everywhere? So I began to see that this my side versus your side problem was not only pervasive, but it was actually the root of most of our other problems. And so I became obsessed because I thought, if I can solve this problem, then we can solve all the other problems. Yeah, think this through. And one day, it dawned on me. I thought, it's like a triangle. And you're on one side, they're on the other side. And you don't want this compromised, watered down solution. You want a bigger, better solution. Something that's built upon the best ideals from both sides. The problem is, when we're trading chips down here on the line, we can't even open the door to that possibility. This isn't just a political problem. It's not just a business problem. This is a really human problem. This happens in families. When my husband and I first became parents, we would find ourselves in these petty arguments about how to raise our daughter. And he would say, well, you know, in my family, we did it this way. And of course, I would respond, well, the way I was raised. You've been there. And there were times when I just felt like saying to him, We are so not doing it the way that your parents did it. What part of that do you not get? But then I thought, wait a minute, I don't really want to do it the way my parents did it either. We wanted to create something different, something better. But the problem was, whenever we got stressed, whenever we got tense, we just defaulted to the models that we already knew. One of us had a lens on parenting that was about self-discipline and accomplishment. Okay, that was me. And he had a lens on parenting that was about unconditional acceptance. But one day, it dawned on me. We thought we were at odds, but we actually shared the same purpose. And it was a noble purpose. We were trying to raise a future leader. We didn't want to compromise. I didn't want a little bit of self-discipline. He didn't want a little bit of unconditional acceptance. We wanted a lot of both, but we didn't know what that looked like. And so our noble purpose became our North Star. It pointed us in the right direction. But here's the human problem. It's that spot right there at the center of the triangle. That spot where you don't know what the end game is going to look like. I call this a sea of uncertainty. Because this is the spot that you have to step into, where you have to let go of your preconceived ideas. And you have to do the messy work of figuring it out and point yourself in the direction of your true and noble purpose. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's all fine and well in parenting. You both care about the same thing. And maybe that'll work in business, where two people have, similar business goals. But that'll never work in politics. We have too many competing agendas. I want to tell you, not only can this work in politics, but it's already been done. When I was in high school, I confess, I was not a great student. But there was one class that I loved, and it was American history. And it's because my teacher, Mr. Wyatt, used to act out these scenes from the American Revolution. He would do George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and Ben Franklin, and he would imitate them doing these voices. Well, Mr. Adams, I beg to differ. No, Mr. Jefferson. And one day I was sitting in class and it dawned on me, oh my gosh, these were just regular guys. They were just guys. They were not faces on money back then. They were regular guys like my dad or my teacher. Guys in a difficult situation trying to figure out a new and different way. Many historians say that Thomas Jefferson was the original liberal and John Adams was the original conservative. Mr. Wyatt said that Thomas Jefferson believed that people were creative and peaceable, and so he thought that the first purpose of government was liberty. John Adams believed that people could be self-serving and violent, and so he believed that the first purpose of government was order. These two men collaborated on the Declaration of Independence. And over the 50 years that followed, they were often at odds. At times, they were even bitter enemies. But in our country's infancy, these two very different ideologies, they did not make our country weaker. They made our country stronger. Because you see, Thomas Jefferson and John Adams shared a noble purpose. They wanted to create a more perfect union. Not a perfect union, but a more perfect union than the one they started with. Their willingness to push and pull against each other in a situation where the outcome was anything but certain is why we get to live in the country we do today. I don't think it's a coincidence that John Adams and Thomas Jefferson both died on exactly the same day, within hours of each other. The 4th of July, 1826, 50 years to the day after the birth of the country they founded. And I like to think that there was a moment when they passed from this world to the next, where they looked across space and time and they saw it all. They tipped their hats to each other and said, "Well done, partner," because they knew that their two very different truths had come together to form that bigger, better, amazing solution that we call the United States of America. I call this model the triangle of truth because the truth can never be in conflict with the truth. It is only our inability to see how our truths come together that holds us back. And so we have a choice. Our politicians are not going to change until we ask them to. So we can keep trading these chips, or we can decide that we want something better. But if we want to create that new and better thing, we have to be willing to step into this place of uncertainty, and we have to let go of some of our preconceived ideas. And we've got to give our politicians permission to do the same. Because if you decide that the other side is the impediment to your progress, they will be. So the next time you are faced with a conflict, large or small, do not settle for compromise. Do this instead. Let go of your preconceived ideas and put your ideology on pause. Find and declare your true and noble purpose. And now this is the hard part. Step in to that place of uncertainty and invite the other side to come there with you. And be confident that even though you don't know what the end game is going to look like, together you can create a solution that is better than you ever could have dreamed of alone. Because that place in the center of the triangle, that messy, creative, ambiguous place, that is the very place where great ideas are born.
Thank you.